Okay, we start our session today with the session of Umul Kitab Al-Fatihah. Okay, so we have seen some of the Pawnless Endgame yesterday. So let me move to this first. Okay, let me check the camera first. Okay, in the previous session, we learned about the Pawnless Endgame, Queen versus Bishop. As you can see on the notes there, Queen versus Bishop is easy win. Queen versus Knight, Queen versus Knight Bishop, Queen versus Bishop Bishop, Knight Knight, and then Queen versus Rook. I highlight this because this is what happened most in practical play lah. And then under Queen versus Rook, you have a second rank defense, you have the third rank defense, you have the Philidor position, and then we learn about the Rook versus Bishop. We also learn about Rook versus Knight. Rook versus Bishop and Rook versus Knight generally draw unless what we call, as you can see here, unless for Rook versus Bishop, unless the Bishop side is forced to dangerous corner, and Rook versus Knight is generally draw lah. Okay, so I would like to continue further from that, but before we continue, let's see some statistic. Okay, let me go to the full. Okay, so let me open this first. Let me close this. Okay. So what you can see in front of you is basically the database. For those who are new for this session, I have explained about database in the previous Masum coaching. So basically this is a database, 8.7 million database. All the games, all the what we call federated games that is played in the tournament all around the world, starting from 1000 whatever this thing until last year. You can see here until November last year. I not update this database yet lah. But in all, we have like 8 million games here. 8 million games that is being played, but in the rated tournament. Rated tournament is a tournament when you play in that, you have the opportunity to get rating. Okay, normally when you play Masum, I don't know, maybe that's not rated. I don't think this Sukip is rated. But rated tournament typically they have high, what we call high level, a little bit high level lah, meaning that you need to pay a little bit more in order to enter that tournament. So all the rated tournament typically is recorded. I mean, whenever you play in rated tournament, the top tournament, whatever you play on the board is being recorded. Sometimes you see that you are playing in the what called digital board. Okay, digital board. Let me open this thing. You have this DGT board. Okay, here like this image there. Okay, sometimes you are playing on this DGT board. This board is typically connected with the wire. You can see the wire here, and this, whenever you move, is being recorded lah. So normally rated tournament, the top tournament, they use this board, the wooden board. So you still need to record. Okay, it doesn't mean that when you play using this board, you are not required to record. The recording is compulsory if you play rapid or if you play like a long game lah. The purpose of this digital board is that so that the tournament organizer can send your games to the whoever want to archive their ni lah. For example, chess base. This is a chess base from the chess base. Chess base is a company. They sort of like archive all the game from all around the world, and then they make a database lah. So this database, I want to show you the statistic of the Pawnless Endgame that we learned yesterday. So let me so when you have database, you can easily filter out. For example, if let's say out of these 8 million games, I want to filter out how many games that end up with the Queen versus what we call what we learned before. Let me move here. Let me bring here lah. You can see in the we will not see this, queen versus bishop, because this is very easy, so normally people just resign. So we want to see the probability of this happening in your practice. In the practice, queen versus knight bishop, queen versus bishop bishop, queen versus knight knight, and queen versus rook, and so on. I will ignore this thing, queen versus bishop, queen versus knight, and this basic mat, because this is just like what we call really the basic thing lah. You should not really even though you don't learn about this, I think you can find the winning move during the board. So let's see queen versus knight bishop. So let me put here first. Okay, let me how to do that. You just simply filter this all the game here. So you can see if you have chess base. If you don't know how to use this thing, if let's say you don't have chess base, it doesn't really matter. It just I want to show you that the ability of extracting the data from the big data. So let's say you want to see the game that ended with the queen versus bishop and knight without any pawn. So what you do is that you can go to the material here. You go material, and then we want the queen 1, and then we want the what we call bishop bishop and knight. Let's say we try to find the probability of this happening. Not probability, the statistic. Because this is not probability anymore. It's already a real game. You want to see how many occurring in the practice. So we put 1 1, we put 1 1, meaning that you have 1 queen, 1 bishop, and 1 knight. So they don't put a king here, because the king is without king, then you cannot play lah. And then we put the pawn is 0 lah, because we don't have any pawn. And then you can just you can see what we call the amount of game, that's number of game that occurring with this specific configuration, queen and then bishop and then knight. So let's see how many you can get. Okay, so we already finished that, and then we find the statistic. You can just do like this. I mean, I just hit the shortcut key. So basically you can see you have what we call 174 games out of 8 million games using this what we call, let me I bring this lah, easy. So this myself here, I put here, where is the this, so that you can see. So so you can see with the queen versus bishop here, queen versus knight versus bishop, we have 174 games. And then out of that, what most important thing, I want to see this thing, how many decisive result. So you can see from here. So from here you can see the draw happened 24%, around 24% is draw, 24% game is draw. And then white win or black win is meaning that it's decisive game lah. They are decisive game, so I just put decisive game is around what we call, is around 70% lah, around 70%. So that is a queen versus knight versus bishop. Let me find for others first, and then we discuss after that. Okay, now this is queen versus knight and bishop. Only 174 games is there out of 8 million games, so that is 0.0% lah. So let's see what happened to control. We want to find for instead of knight and bishop, we want to find bishop and bishop. So queen versus bishop bishop, so meaning that you have two bishop here, 0 here, 0 here, and then we fire that thing up, and then let's see. Okay, so let me control S, and then you can see this thing. Okay, so you can see use this queen versus bishop bishop, the occurrence for that is much lesser. It's only 26 games out of 8 million. I mean, it's really insignificant, So you might ask, why then you learn this, why then we learn this thing? As I said in the previous class, you learn this bishop knight in game is not because it will happen in your game. I mean, it might be happen, but the probability is very low. The reason is that to familiarize with the piece itself. For example, yesterday we learned when we deal with the bishop, queen versus bishop. You know how the idea, we want the idea itself, how you create a barrier, and so on. So you familiar with the piece. When you familiar with the piece, it's easier for you to play in the endgame later on. So this is basically the basis lah. So let me put here queen versus bishop. Bishop is 26 game, and then how many percentage of winning of draw is around 38 around let's say 40% lah, 40% draw, and then 60% draw, and then what we call decisive game is around 60%. Okay, so that is queen versus bishop. Let's see now queen versus knight. As I said before, as we learned in the last lesson, that this queen versus knight is much easier to draw compared to queen versus bishop. So let's see. So we close this, and then we control F, and then we find this thing. Okay, so instead of 2 bishop, now we put bishop 0, knight 2. So we are okay. Okay, so we see, we try to see how many games that can be, what we call, can be filtered. Okay, so like S. Okay, and then you can see there are only also a very minimal game. So only what we call 59, around 59 game only, 59 game, and then the draw is around 50% draw, and then 50% draw, and then decisive game is around 50%. Okay, so from here alone you can already see that knight versus knight is much easier to draw than the bishop versus bishop lah. Okay, let's see now the statistic for queen versus rook. Why I highlight this? Because this happened quite often, meaning that it's much more practical for you to study this. I mean, you can study this queen versus knight, queen versus bishop, but no need to study in depth lah. I mean, it's enough for you to study to get the idea only, the feeling, the idea, and that's on lah. But to study in depth, it's much better for you to study in depth this queen versus rook, because if I filter this thing, let's say I control F there, and then I put queen versus rook. So instead of knight, so we put 0, and then rook 1, meaning that queen 1, rook 1. So if you look here, I ignore the colors. Even though here you see they are white, this is black. When I click here, ignore the color, meaning that it can happen regardless white have a queen or white have a rook. It doesn't really matter lah. So if I filter that thing, you get something like this. Okay, blah 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 blah. I show you the statistic first, and then we go. Okay, so you can see here straight away, you can see there are a lot more, 5,000 there. So you can see 5,000. So here, let me put here first. You can have 5,092 games, and then out of that you can see the draw. The draw is 45% draw, and then decisive games is around 45, and then 65 lah. We can say 65 lah, 65 45 55 lah, 55% decisive. So let me bold this thing first so it's easy to see. Okay, control bold. Okay, so that's what we learn from here. Okay, let me check, let me see first. Okay, so you can see here, if you want to study queen versus pawnless game, okay, we don't go down yet, but later I will continue lah. But up to now, the queen versus minor piece, knight versus bishop, and queen versus major piece, which is rook. So you can see it's much more beneficial for you to study this queen versus rook compared to this. Okay, you can study this, but just get the idea lah. Find the idea. It's still useful, but for the practical purpose, it's much more useful to study this thing. So we can see now here, even though as I said before, queens always wins against rook pawnless endgame. Let me this thing, the one that I highlight, that queen by right, queen always win against rook in pawnless endgame. The problem now, if you can see here, the number of draw, the percentage of draw is higher. It's not like if you have this half draw and decisive game, meaning that the theory says something, but the practicality says something else. So this is where if I close this thing, if I may, if I put this here, and then if you look here, this is the filtered game. So if I click here, you can see that what we call. If I click here, you can see that game, that game, that game, that game. I click that game, all with the queen and the rook. So this is the ability of the what we call having the database. You can just filter all this thing easily. So as I said before, queen versus rook. The problem with queen versus rook is not because queen cannot win against rook. It's because the 50 move rule. Okay, so let's see. The longest game. Let's say I can filter against the move. Okay, the longest game. Okay, it's quite slow, but it's okay. We wait for a while. Okay, so this is a filter against the longest game lah. Okay, you can see the longest game here. This is the longest game. Move. This is the longest game. Okay, so this longest game. Let's say I put here, this one. Okay, so you can see this is draw. The result is draw. So let's see the game itself. Let me put here and then make it bigger, a little bit bigger lah here. This. Yeah, you can see lah kot. Okay, I think you can see there. Okay, so if you look here, 50 move rule happen when you have no pawn move. It start when there are no pawn move and no capture lah. So for example here, this is not 50 move rule yet. So this here, this. Okay, so now there are no pawn. Okay, so when we want to see where the 50 move rule start is when the last time the capture or the pawn move happen in the game. For example here, the last time the capture or pawn move happen is around here. So there are pawn here. So this. Kenapa terbuka ni? Okay, here. Okay, so as you can see here, there are pawn there. Now, when you start capture like this, the rule start. Okay, the rule start. I mean, here also is already start. I mean, for example, if let's say the black move here, and then the queen move there here, without moving the pawn, then it's still within the 50 move ni lah. But once you sort of like move the pawn, then the move is reset. Okay, if some of you don't clear about this, please refer to the ni lah, please Google around lah, because this is the rule of the game. Hopefully all of you know. I don't want to deal with that because that you are Mustang, you should know lah. I mean, this is the basic thing lah. So the 50 move rule start here. When you eat that, meaning that there are no pawn. So because there are no pawn, the queen must win. The side with the winning must happen before the 50 move rule reach. Okay, so if you look here, you keep playing, so you can see here they start at 109. It start at move 109. If you see here, it just play. Wait, it's quite slow lah. Kenapa slow? Okay, so you can see, that's why I said queen versus rook against the competent defender is pretty difficult to win in 50 move rule. So as you can see here, the game is already 168. Okay, and then it claim a draw. 168 minus 103. 100. Where is the last thing? 100. I think 100. What is the last? The capture is 109. So now you have 168 minus 109 is basically 60 move. It's more than 50 move already, right? But then why not? If you add 50 to this, it's basically it's already 59. 159 is already draw here. But why then they can play? Why then they still can play here? By right, this is already draw because it's already 50 move. Because remember, this is Bliss. If you look here, this is Bliss. This is Bliss championship, meaning that you don't write. When you play Bliss, you don't write. Okay, bliss, or if let's say your time is less than 5 minutes, typically even though you play a long game, the organizer will tell you if you are down to 5 minutes and below, you don't need to write the notation. But here is the bliss, the bliss of course you don't write. So when you don't write, you don't know how long you play. You keep playing, but you don't what we call keep the record how many moves you already played. So the reason why they are recorded here is because they are using what we call this thing lah, the digity board. This is the use of digity board. You don't need to write, but then the problem, even though they record your move, they don't tell you this is move number what, move number what. So here, even though the black can claim the draw at here at move 159, because it's already 50 move rule after the capture, they keep playing because they don't know. They don't know whether this thing, in order for you to claim the 50 move rule, you need to have a proof. You cannot just, okay, I raise my hand, or I want to claim, I call the arbiter, I want to this draw. No, cannot. You need to have a proof, and the proof is a notation. So if you play bliss, you cannot claim lah. You cannot claim. You really cannot claim, because if you claim, then they need to prove. How can you claim 50 move if you don't write? So this is the thing that you need to understand. In practical play is different than when you play online. Online you have like a move, right? But when you are playing practical game, face to face, over the board, that doesn't you don't have that luxury. You don't have that luxury. So you need to ni lah, even for black, or even if you are attacker or defender, you don't know unless you record lah. So this let's say if this girl play until this, and then they win the rook, and then the game is win by white, the black will regret lah, if she know that it's already overstepped the 50 move rule. So it's important. The theory is one thing, the practicality is another thing. In theory, this is winnable to white regardless where the position of the rook, but in practice thing can happen. For example, like this, if you look here, they are not like amateur. You see 2-5, this is grandmaster here. 2-5 is grandmaster. This also 2-5 for the woman. This 2-4 for the woman, normally grandmaster. So 2 grandmaster with a rating to 500 play each other. Still it's hard to ni. Okay. So let's see here, 166 here. So here, if you look here, let me put here like much easier here, much clearer lah. Much clearer here. Okay, same like this. You can see here, what we call 166 move. 166 move. When the 50 move rule start when you capture. So where you start the capture. Okay, so this. Yeah, okay, the 50 move start from here. So here 119, if you plus 50 is basically 50, you get 169. Okay, so you can see this, the end is 166. Okay, 169 plus 50, 169, but here 166. So meaning that here is already, they already got this, what we call, already capture the what we call the rook. So meaning that it's reset back. Okay, so effectively it doesn't reach 50 move rule, because 166 169 here. Okay, the last capture, and the latest capture 165. So 165 minus 16 mana lah, 16 mana ni, 119 is basically less than 50 lah, less than 50. So basically here it move 165, it's already reset to 0. So then you can just win with the queen lah. So that's why at the beginning we learn about the queen basic mat first. Okay, this thing, rook versus queen versus rook also happen at the highest level. So for example, let's say I sort this thing with the yellow. Let's say I sort with the yellow. You can see the world champion also, what we call This Carlsen, Carlsen is basically current world champion. So for those of you who don't know, Magnus Carlsen. So this is basically current world champion lah. So that is this thing. So this our current world champion. So this Magnus Carlsen. So as you can see here, this Carlsen play with the MVL, Maxime Virtual the French. So you can see they also play. You can see the last part. Okay, here this is the last. Even with the against the at the top level, it takes a lot of time to grind to win. 63 to 90. That's a lot of time. Okay, because to show that how difficult this endgame. So you can see this, they use the third rank defense. But of course, Carlsen is white, know how to break the thing. Okay, so you learn third rank defense before, right? But this is not really third rank, but because the king is already here, it's not in the middle. But anyway, just to show you that the way how white can break the not for trust, mainly that the how to break the position is to reach the Philidor position. We learned in the previous class is the Philidor position. So see how Carlsen play against the black. Remember, black is a top player. Is one of the top. Is super grandmaster. One of the top player, top 10 in the world. I think top 10 in the world. So still is you against the good defender is very difficult to win. So just to show you. Okay, so this is a Philidor position. We have learned in the previous, what we call in the previous lesson. That's the important how to know what the idea where you want to go. If you just check against a competent defender, it's very difficult to win in 50 move rule lah. But because they know this white know how to play, so you can see they force into the Philidor position and then just win lah. Okay, so we learn before and then you check and then you fought. Okay, like that. Okay, and remember, if you look here, if you look this game, this is Bliss. This is Bliss. Imagine you can do that in Bliss. That's a quite really achievement lah. I mean, normally when we want to think this thing, we take time, but they, I mean, at top level, they just Bliss this thing out. Okay. 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 One more thing I want to show. Apart from this, let's say go to the move first. I want to show this thing. Okay. I want to show this thing. This. Let's go here. Let's go here. Where is the last capture? So the last capture is here. Okay, the last capture is here. Meaning that it start. The clock is start. 50 move rule. Okay, as you can see here, the game is win by white. Okay, fine. But in order to win this, you need to win in 50 move rule. Under 50 move rule. So, but if you look at the games, it's longer than 50. 97 until 165. For sure, it's more than 50 move, right? So, where is the last capture? Let's see. The last capture here lah. Queen take H1. This last capture. So, from here, 97 until here is more than 50 move rule. This is the problem because you don't record. This is the reason why they don't claim this. Black doesn't claim 50 move rule, because if black know, he will he will claim at move 50 plus 97 is around 147. 147. Here is already draw actually. It's already overstep the 50 move here. It's already overstep. But the problem, as I said before, when you play with DGT or Bliss, or even you play in Sukip later on, when you are down in time, you don't need to record. When you don't record, yes, it's good for you. I mean, you are like focused, but then at the same time, it also like a curse. If let's say you are facing this, you are black defending against the queen, then you cannot claim unless you have a proof. So this thing, again, I said, theory is one thing, practice is another thing. Okay, so by right here is already draw, but then because they cannot claim, because they don't write, because this is rapid. Normally you don't need to write also lah. But because of they don't write, then they don't know what move they are there. They already there. So so that is basically to show you, if you look here, if you look what we put here, this thing, this queen versus rook, they are, this is the reason why they are what we call, they are high percentage of draw, even though the queen and always win with the rook. This is different. Queen versus knight theoretically is draw. Queen versus bishop, yeah, normally queen win lah. But queen versus knight typically is easy draw lah. That's why high draw. But here is different. Queen versus rook is by theory queen always win. But here you can see it's almost similar to this percentage for the queen versus knight. I mean that a high percentage of draw. The reason of a step of 50 move rule lah. Okay. So that's the reason why we study the Pawnless Endgame. Okay, this just to get the idea for how how the characteristic of each piece and so on. But here is the real deal. You need to learn, because it's happened in practice a lot. So as you can see here, the number is a lot. Of course, 5,000 out of 8 million is still a little, but still I can say that it's happened. I mean, it did happen. It do happen. Okay, so some of you might say, how can I get this, what we call this, all this database and so on? If you don't have this chess base, whatever, you can just go to what we call this, you can just go to the chess base. You can find this what we call this chess base. You go to chess base, you click the chess base, and then you go to the here. I mean, you don't need to log in lah, but just click here. What here, login, whatever this thing. Login here. Okay, whatever. Let's say I just want to go here, live database, web apps. You have this live database. Live database meaning that if you want to find the any games that happen, I mean played in the rated tournaments, you can just go here. So you can see here instant access to 8 million games. Okay, so if you try as a guest, so let's say you try as a guest, you don't want to log in, it doesn't matter. So you can see all the game that is being played up to date. For example, this 2022, and all the way down to load more games lah. So that's the problem lah. If you are if you are not subscribed for this, then you don't have lah. Even if you subscribe this thing, you cannot filter like the one that I show you. As I said before, the one that I show you before, for example like this, if I want to filter, I do like this, and then I can filter very meticulously what position I want and so on. But even if let's say you subscribe here, you subscribe this thing, this the online database chess base, they still they don't do that, they don't have that capability. For example here you can see is grayed out, but you cannot, even if you are premium, you really cannot filter like the one that I showed just now lah. You can just filter based on the name, on the tournament, on the year only, but not on the material and so on. So that's the power of having a database lah, So even that, you can even this database, you can see that you can filter much more. You can filter in terms of double pawn. Is that the position have double pawn? For example, if the position have connected pawn, if the position have this and so on. There are many more things lah. If you want to learn more about this, you can just refer to my previous lesson. Okay, enough for that. So just to show you that the study of what we call queen versus rook is practical. It's practical, and it is good for you to put some study. Okay, to learn study. Okay, let's see. Where is the thing? Okay, this thing. Okay, so we are here. So now we look here. We also start we learned yesterday about rook versus bishop, rook versus knight. So we want to see how is it a lot of game ended with this. So just filter this thing again, Control F, and then I just find. So you want bishop versus rook. So instead of queen, 0 0, and then you put rook 1 1, and then let's say you want bishop first, 1 1, and then no rook. So as you can see here, what I did is that I put rook 1, bishop 1, no pawn 0, and also ignore the color, so each side can have lah. So okay, So we can see there's still quite a lot of game that ended like that. Okay, ended like that. Okay, so if I can see, so you can see this bishop. I put myself up, so you can see the bishop, rook, bishop, rook, bishop, rook. By right, this bishop is always draw. Not always draw, meaning that if you typically is draw lah, unless you are in the dangerous corner. So let's see the statistic. So you can see the statistic here. There are 3,003 what we call how much there? Let me put here 3350 games, and then how many draw? Let's see how many draw. There are 75 draw, 75% draw, and then 75, and then there are 25 lah, 25 draw, 25% decisive, decisive. Okay, let's put this first. Let me put this first. Rook versus knight. Okay, let me find rook versus knight. Control F. Rook versus knight. Okay, so instead of bishop, this becomes 0, this becomes 0, knight become 1, knight become 1, so become okay. And then now everything here is basically the position, the game where the position of bishop versus knight pawnless version is there. For example, here you can see here bishop not bishop, is knight, rook versus knight. So you can see rook knight, rook knight, rook knight, rook knight, rook knight, and so on. So let's see the statistic. So you can see that the statistic is around 3,000, more or less the same, more or less the same like that. So 3,834. Okay, so what is the percentage of winning? The draw is around 77 lah, more or less the same lah, 77 draw, and then the what we call the decisive game 20% decisive. By right, we learned before this rook versus bishop and rook versus knight is typically is generally draw. I mean, theoretically it's draw lah, but still they are decisive game. They are decisive game. The reason for this is because, as I said, if you don't know what to do, then you might play put your king. If you have bishop, you put the king in the dangerous corner. So that's why if you are, even you know that the endgame is draw, if you are attacker, please continue to play lah. Please continue to play, because who knows, I mean, your opponent will falter, will make a mistake, and yeah, you can win. But still, in general, this rook versus bishop, rook versus knight is what we call drawish in nature. Okay, so until yesterday we studied about this. The reason why I show you statistic is because to show you to what we call hilang oh here to show you that this thing, where to focus your study. So we are still in the realm of Pawnless Endgame. We don't put pawn yet. Pawn, when you have pawn, that's different. That is different thing. If you put pawn, let's say if you put pawn, this pawnless. This pawnless. If you put pawn, let's say I go to where to go? I want to go here. Let me Control F lah. Control F. Let's say I want to Control F, and then let's say I remove material. Okay, I remove material, meaning that I want to filter. I mean that everything is there from from the earliest to the latest. So I want to see from all the 8 million games, what is the probability of endgame occurring with the pawn. I mean when there are pawn. So what to do is you just click statistic. So you can see here the numbers is keep increasing. It will increase up to this 87. You can see here my total is 8.7 million. So this number is keep increasing. Okay, so let it filter first. Okay, what we want to, so you can see here N 8.7. This also my total 8.7, meaning that it filter everything. So we want to see in terms of endgames. Endgames. So I click here endgames. You can see what we call this the probability, I mean the statistic of which endgame that happen most frequent in practice. But this including the pawn, normally including the pawn. Okay, so you can see rook endgame. So rook versus rook, meaning that rook versus rook, and then they are pawn. So happen more frequently than others, than any others. I mean double than the even like triple this thing. So we will study we will learn about the rook endgame later on, but not today lah. Not today. We will continue with the pawnless endgame first. This is not pawnless. This is more like endgame that have some pound lah, some pound. So you can see the in general root endgame. Root endgame is the most commonly occur endgame that's occur. That's you. So you put more emphasis on that. Okay, and then you have a bishop endgame after that, and then you have rook bishop, mean that you have rook bishop pound, okay, and then you have knight versus bishop, bishop versus knight, queen versus queen, and blah blah blah. Just to show you this thing, the first one, the rook versus rook, is totally skewed over compared to others lah. So meaning that this happen most frequently and is much more useful for you to study this rook endgame. If you want to improve your endgames as it's happened more frequently than others lah. But we still in the Pawnless, so we are not touching this yet. So just to give you the idea lah, just to give you the idea, the practicality of your endgame study. Okay, the practicality of your endgame study. Okay, so does that mean this not practical? Queen versus bishop is not practical. It's just 26 only out of 8.7 million games. Yeah, it's not really practical because, yeah, in your lifetime, I don't think that you really will meet. But at least you know how to handle the bishop. Even this, how to mate with the bishop and knight. It's not, I mean, I don't think that, I mean, even in lifetime, maybe you will face only once or maybe not at all. But still, the concept of V maneuver, the one that we learned before, this how we, if you don't remember, please refer to our previous study lesson. So V maneuver of knight, NIGST, teach you how to handle the knight. Okay, in general, knight is a slow thing, so you need to handle knight with care. So of course, you might not facing this in real game, but at least you know the knight cannot lose tempo, the bishop playing tempo, and so on. So you learn something else. Okay, it's not you learn this bishop knight mate because it will happen. You learn this because it help you somehow in understanding how the piece move, the minor piece move. Huh? Okay, so up until here, we not yet study this thing because we want to study this thing. We want to study today. We will still continue the Pawnless Endgame, but we want to study one peculiar ending: rook versus rook bishop. Okay, and also rook versus rook knight. Okay, so here rook versus bishop only. Here rook versus knight only. What we want to study today is basically what if both sides have a rook but one side have a bishop further. The reason why I want to focus on this is because look at the statistic. Let me bold this thing first. It's quite peculiar. So let me Control F and then try to find the statistic of that material, and then let's say I click that material. We have rook, we have let's say we put the bishop first lah. Bishop, this 0 0, and then the rook is 1. So you can see here, one side they have a rook, one side they have rook and bishop. So let's click OK and then see the statistic. See the statistic. It's quite a number. It's quite a number, meaning that when there are quite a number of games extracted from this filter, meaning that it's happened frequently. But what more interesting is not that. What more interesting is that this statistic, I will show you why it's interesting. Let's see. Let me put first. Let me put here first so that we not forget. So we have 5275 games with the draw is 53% draw. So 53% draw, meaning that 50-50 lah. We can put 50-50 lah. 50% draw and then 50% decisive games. Okay, let's see rook versus rook knight. Okay, let's see this first. Let me put this first. Control F. Okay, let me check. Okay, so instead of bishop, now we put the knight. Okay, put knight. So you have rook versus rook and knight. Okay, ignore the colors, material, and then click OK, and then you will see the numbers. There are still a lot similar. In fact, you can see 1, 2000, blah 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 blah. And let's see, go to the statistic. So you can see the statistic there. So you have what? You have there roughly the same number of 4191 games, and then but the draw is totally different. 85% draw, and then only 20% lah, roughly 20% decisive game. Okay, so let me close this first. Okay, what does it mean by this rook versus rook knight? Here is this lah. If I click here, so you can see this rook and knight, this rook knight, rook knight, rook knight, rook knight. You have this Pawnless Endgame, but you have both sides have rook, and then one side have a minor piece. We call this minor piece. The rook and the queen, we call it major piece. Knight and bishop, we call it minor piece. So the peculiar thing about this, if you see here, with the bishop, okay, this endgame, generally, this type of endgame, let me put here, this endgame, let me control board, this endgame theoretically draw. Okay, this endgame is theoretically draw. Similarly with this, see, I put here first, let me put it first, Control V. Okay, what I want to say that we will learn later, but I just to give you the overview first. Rook versus rook and bishop, and rook versus rook and knight is more or less the same like this. Rook versus bishop, rook versus knight. What I mean same is that this thing, by theory, is draw. By theory, is draw. But if you look here, okay, this 81% draw, that's okay lah. This in practice, this in practice. So we can say that in practice also is happen commonly lah. 81 draw, this 21 decisive game. This maybe because they just blunder or whatever lah. For example, here you can see this rook knight, right? You can see all draw, right? So all draw. So you can see a lot of things. But if you compare this with this, if I compare this with the what we call with the bishop, let's say I put bishop 0, 0. Okay. So you can see there are still a lot of draw, but there are few winning there. There are a lot more win position or decisive game happen there. So you can see here, it's not like before. You can see every time I scroll down, you can see they are winning, losing, meaning that the decisive games happen. So that's quite peculiar, because if you think about it, if these two endgame is theoretically draw, why then in practice this thing have more sort of like balance in terms of result? Okay, the reason for that is because this rook versus rook bishop here is sort of like, even though it's theoretically draw, in practice is much more difficult to defend in this position than this, meaning that the defender, the one that have only rook, okay, and this is defender lah, the rook only is defender lah, because rook versus bishop is, we call it attacker lah, because you have like extra. So the compared to these two things, it's much easier to defend here than here. That's why there are a lot more winning chance for rook versus rook bishop. And in fact, rook versus rook bishop is one of the most common Pawnless Endgame. We are dealing in Pawnless Endgame. Remember, we are not dealing with pawn yet. It one of the most common. This, let me put this in color lah. Macam mana nak buat color? So the one that I put like this, I put this thing. So the one that I put in yellow is the common lah. Common happen in practice. Okay, this. Okay, so you can see queen versus rook, common. Rook versus bishop, common. Common lah. Rook versus knight, common. Rook versus rook bishop, common. Rook versus rook knight, common. So today we will continue by learning what we call this rook versus rook bishop and rook versus rook knight lah. Okay. Okay, now, okay, rook versus, what you see in front of you is basically this thing. This rook versus rook bishop is one of the common Pawnless Endgame that typically occur in over the board game. The general result, as I said to you, is that this is draw. Okay, but they are significant. Okay, general result. Okay, but they are significant winning chance. So this is the very important. Ni lah, let me put in. But they are significant winning chance. So let me put in red so that you can just, okay, this is like something new. Okay, what this means is that in practical play, what usually win this endgame, even though the verdict is draw, because when you play in endgame, you are tired. I mean, you are already play for like a long game, and it's also tricky to defend. It's also tricky to defend for those who have, I mean, this in this case, the black is the defender, so it's tricky for black to defend, and it's require constant alertness lah. Okay, what you see in front of you is what we call Cochrane defense, Cochrane defensive setup. Okay, let me color lain lah. Color ni macam ni. So let me put in color hitam lah. Color hitam. Let me do like this. Let me put paragraph. Go there. Okay. So this is one defensive setup for rook versus rook bishop lah, for defender. As I said, rook versus rook bishop is theoretically draw. So there are two defensive setup. First, they call it Cochrane defensive setup. The second is basically the second rank setup. Okay, Cochrane. Okay, so these two, what we call two setup that you should aim as a defender if you are facing this rook bishop opponent. Okay, in Pawnless Endgame. This is a Cochrane defense. Okay, so let's see here. So as you can see here, the black king here. So the we say here the black adopt the Cochrane defense. So you can see here, we can see that the black is at the worst position possible. I mean, at the edge. Normally you can only win. You can checkmate at the edge. When you have no pawn, you can only mate or win when the opponent king at the edge or at the corner. So here we put the position of the black king at the very back, very worst position, but still this is draw. Okay, so the what we call the concept is this. Okay, the black king is badly placed. Okay, cut off from the 7th rank, but in compensation you can see this rook pinning this. This rook is active. Okay, to compensate that black bad king, you have this active rook. Okay, if let's say black, so white is here. White is you can see the white is here. Okay, the king here. So you can see the Cochrane defense is basically the black rook try to pin the bishop, and you can see the position of king and bishop is here. Okay, is not the, if the king is here. Okay, if we move the position, the king and bishop one rank up, then the position is winning. Because why? Because when the king is here, then you can create a mating attack, a mating checkmate trade lah, a mate trade, because it's facing each other, and then you can just checkmate or whatever lah. But here you cannot do that thing. So this is Cochrane defense. Okay, this is Cochrane defense. You try to aim this thing. Okay. If let's say white to move. Let's say white to move. White try to unpin. Let's say white try to move. White try to unpin himself. Unpin the bishop by moving here. So the way how to play in this Cochrane defense is just you go. If the king go here, you go here. The reason is simple. If let's say you go here, it's still draw. I mean, it's still not losing, but then it's much easier for white to create this what we call this opposite configuration. Hope you understand lah, because if you go here, I go here, then you cannot really make a checkmate if let's say the king is here. Okay, but if you move here, then if let's say black make a mistake, then white king can go to the 6th rank. The 6th rank is here lah, the 6th rank, and then the checkmate is much easier to be constructed. So that's the reason in Cochrane defense, whenever the what we call the king try to unpin his own bishop, then the defender goes to other way around lah. Black just go to other way around in order to not facing the opposing king lah. Okay, so you can see now the white already unpinned, okay, unpinned itself. But when you go like this, what happened now? You can see now the reason why we move the king to here, because even though now the bishop is free, but then the king is sort of like cannot move, cannot go to the what you call to the queen side in this case lah. When there are no king, you cannot really what you call checkmate lah. So that's the reason, the understanding behind this Cochrane defense, why you need to go other way around. Okay, so now black to move. The easiest way is just go to the rook e7 to challenge the rook, because if you eat, then draw lah. You know this is draw, right? You cannot mate with the bishop only. So that's why the easiest way is that you challenge the what we call the rook. Okay, so let's say this check, and then just go king 7, and then what we call you attacking the bishop need to go somewhere, and then this what we call this king, as you can see now, the king is not badly placed compared to before, right? Previously here is cut off, but now it's already moving to what we call to the middle. So when the king, as a defender in the Pawnless Endgame, is you cannot checkmate in the middle of the board. You need to checkmate in the what we call in the edge, on the corner or whatever. So if the king able to escape from the last edge, then the what we call orang kata the chance for draw is, I mean this is draw actually. I mean this endgame is theoretical draw, but the chance to make a mistake is much lesser lah if you can make the king goes to the middle, because the attacker cannot really construct any checkmate team in the middle of the board, only in the edge or in the corner. So this is the idea of Cochrane defense. Okay, so that's the idea of Cochrane defense. Okay, so now let's say it is black to move. Okay, let's say now that is if white to move. Okay, white to move, you know, if the king go here, our king goes to other side. But what if black to move? Okay, black to move. Okay, so black to move, he need to maintain this position. The king maintain this position. Okay, black to move, you need to maintain like this, maintain the pin. So this is draw, this is draw. But if you play like this, you start play like this, then this is a losing blunder lah, losing blunder. Okay, losing blunder, because it's allow king d6. Okay, king d6, because if you check, and then you can sort of like what we call shelter yourself. See, this is similar position as before. If you look, it's more or less the same, but different. The difference is that this position and this position, the one that we learned, and this position is that is one rank up, one file, not rank, file or rank lah, one rank up lah. So here you can see this king and the king is much closer, and much easier for white to create the mating attack. So that's the reason this is not Cochrane. This is not Cochrane. The Cochrane, you can see this lah, the spelling, the pronunciation, I also don't know, but this is Cochrane lah, the name is Cochrane lah. Okay, so this is not Cochrane defense. Okay, sufficient, this is sufficient to win because mating threat can be constructed. Okay, so now how the check, and then is cover, and then rook go here. The reason why this cover, remember, because this thing, the threat is this checkmate. This is the threat. Okay, so in order to what we call to prevent this checkmate, you need to interpose with something, with what we call with the rook here. So that's why rook c2. So if you check, then it go this thing lah, go like that. Okay, so but then the what we call the rook goes to the other side because you want to checkmate on the other side. Want to checkmate here lah. Want to checkmate here. So in this case, the what we call the black goes to here to still to interpose here if they are to check. Okay, if you don't know how to play, let's say this is winnable for white, but let's say if you don't know how to play, you will keep moving the rook here, moving the rook there, then you still cannot win. Okay, even though this position is winning, but if you don't have an idea how to win this thing, that's a little bit problem, because you see the rook keep try to interpose here, so you cannot checkmate there, right? So you need to what we call, so the question is how white can improve this thing. So if let's say ask yourself how white can improve, because you cannot do anything. If you let's say you check, do like this. If you take the rook, then it's draw. If let's say you go other way around like this, then the rook goes here back. So if let's say you don't know the idea, so the reason why this lecture or this coaching is more or less to give you the idea only. It's not like a training. The training you need to do yourself. I mean, this more like giving you the idea. If you never facing this thing, at least you get the idea lah. So let's continue. So you go to here. Okay, so how to continue from this? So when you don't know when this thing, what you do is that you play a tempo move. Okay, you play a tempo move. Okay, seems like nothing happened because the rook can still what we call maintain here, right? But remember here, this position is quite, you are forcing the rook, because the rook must stay in this file, previously the rook is here, right? But now the rook go to e3. This small change everything, because you can see here this rook is worse at e3. Okay, because you cannot go here, the rook cannot go here, because the bishop control this thing, Okay, that's one thing. Okay, we will see why this square is important later on. But the idea for this tempo move is to push to force black to go to put his rook to a little bit worse square instead of here you go there. Okay, we will see later on what happened when you go to e1 lah. But for time being, we see this first. Okay, so how to win this thing? You check, and then you go king b8, and then you go rook b7. Okay, not here, rook b. Okay, you go to rook b7. The reason is that you want to what we call, because you cannot go here now, because if you do here, you check, and then you cannot interpose because checkmate lah. Okay, remember this is checkmate lah. Okay, so okay, the question now, why you don't do in the beginning? Why don't you do this first? Why you need to play with the tempo move in the first before you play this? The reason is that if you do like this, and then if you go here, macam mana this thing they cannot, because this thing, the reason you can just go here lah. I think you go here. I think you can go here lah. I think you can go other way around. Let me check for a while lah. Wait, let me check for a while. Okay, the reason why okay, this is still winning lah. But this is longer lah. I mean, this still winning. What we call this, even though you don't do this and then you play this thing, you still winning, but it take longer time lah. Okay, because as I said, this is not Cochrane, so meaning that it's already winning lah. Just the way how you do, just to show you some winning method is faster than other lah. Okay, so let's see first. So let's see this thing. Let's see what they take, the what we call the tempo, and then it goes to the worst square, and then rook 7, go here, and then you want to checkmate that because here is covered, is covered, so the threat is checkmate. And then you go here, king f8, because trying to what we call to escape. Okay, so but here you have this what we call rook f7. Okay, check, because this rook f7, the king cannot go here because then you have the discover. Okay, you win the rook. Okay, so like it or not, the king must come back to the center. Okay, so this is the skill, the technique that you should familiarize lah. And then now you want, when the king goes back to the center, you can see, you can check with the what we call with the tempo there. Okay, with the tempo, but the problem you cannot do now because the rook is sort of like what we call the rook sort of like there. If you move the bishop, the rook is sort of like kena makan lah, be captured lah. You cannot just, if you move this, you just no progress lah, the same thing like before. So that's why you need to do this again, do here, and then you put here, you go here, this I repeat again, this thing, you go here. Okay, so the way how to do it is just take the what we call, take the tempo out of the file lah, not the rank but from the file. So now the threat is check and mate, because now if let's say rook play something in the maintain here, you can check, and then this you can see this bishop cover this thing. So if you have a check, and then you cannot interpose because you can eat. So that's the common method lah in playing this endgame. So that's the reason why this move is winning lah, is winning. Okay, so that's the thing. So let's see this thing. Okay, so that's just now what we look. Okay, what if is the rook goes to the e1? It's the same idea. So you go other way around, and then you just play, you want to checkmate, and then the rook interpose, and then you go here, you try to interpose, and then you play here. Okay, the reason here is because you don't want check, you don't want this thing cover this check. Okay, it's protect from check. Okay, so and also it's sort of forcing the rook to move again to worst square. We know before the worst square is here. Okay, it's sort of like forcing forcing the rook to move to the worst square. So you cannot do check because this covered. So that's why it's forced to the worst square, and then you can do the same thing like before lah. Same thing like before. So let's say I go like this, what we call to aim for the checkmate, and then the check, and then this thing. The difference between this and before is that previously, remember, the rook before is here, but now in this worst square. Okay, and then you just continue the as usual lah, and then this thing, and then checkmate lah, and then checkmate. Okay, so that is the idea of the Cochrane lah, the idea of the Cochrane. So recap back. So this is the Cochrane defense. Okay, Cochrane defense happened when the king is still not on the 6th rank. So and the rook pin the thing. So if the king goes to what we call the other side, the defender goes to other side lah. Okay, so if let's say the bishop move, and then the rook just maintain, doesn't matter, and then king d6, and then you just can check lah, check, and then you can just check like that lah. Okay, although the easiest way here is actually just go here lah, that's the easiest way lah. So basically that is what we call the Cochrane defense, the Cochrane defense. Okay, hopefully you understand what does it mean by the Cochrane defense here lah. So this is the Cochrane defense. So as you can see now, we are covering the Cochrane defense in setup, and then there are another position defensive setup they call second rank setup. Here in Cochrane defense, you can see the rook managed to go behind the bishop and pinning the bishop, but there are situations where you cannot pin the bishop. So this is where the second rank setup or second rank defensive setup is useful. So let's see that thing lah. Okay, let me open that first. Okay, so this is second rank setup. Okay, as you look here, okay, so the rook doesn't have time to go behind, okay, because if okay, okay, because the rook here doesn't have time to move to the behind of the what I call of the king and do the pinning, because if the rook do that, then you have check, and then the king need to go to the worst square, and now you hand check, and then king this two, and then you have this thing, mean that you are going for this non-Cochrane, we call it this Philidor position lah. Actually the name for this is Philidor position. In previous session we also learned about Philidor position in what, and I also don't remember what thing, in rook versus thing, but there are a lot of name the Philidor position, there are a lot kind of Philidor position, but the reason why the rook cannot, the white cannot go to the back to adopt the Cochrane defense is because you have black have this immediate threat of going here and check. Of course you cannot go there, of course for sure you cannot go here, because this also one of the idea when you are playing against the rook, if you have a minor piece and the rook lah, and bishop and the rook, because you have this check and then you get the what we call the this rook lah. So like it or not, the what we call the king must go here, and this you have with the tempo check, you have time for the black have time to go inside. Okay, and now this is what we learned in previous lah. This is not Cochrane, even though white able to do this is not Cochrane as we learned before, because the Cochrane defend the king must be not near enough with the this defensive king lah, must be on the fourth rank like that. Okay, so you cannot do that, so you cannot go back and pin the bishop from the behind. So what you do is you adopt the second rank defense. So what is second rank defense is simply you just move the rook on the second rank, that's it. Okay, so you go to rook d2, I mean you just move the rook oscillate here and there. The idea is to defend passively, the idea is to defend passively with both king and the rook on the second rank. Okay, just oscillate on the what we call on the c2 and d2 like that. Okay, just move here and there on c2 and d2 like that. Okay, you might ask, why not here? Why not go? Why not here? Of course, if you do here, just capture lah, no go lah. But why not here? Why not here? There are reason for that. You need to keep the oscillation. You need to keep the rook near with the king. The reason for that is this. So okay, let's say now black play rook h5, and then you rook c2, and then rook h2. If let's say if the oscillation just goes to very far, then you get what we call, you get the rook lah, you lose the rook. So that's the reason the oscillation happen near with the king. Okay, so that's why thing, and then you go like that, just oscillate here and there, and then you check, and then this thing. So the reason why this is draw, the main point is this: the black rook, when you go down like this, the black rook here is attacked by the white rook. So the king doesn't have time to enter. That's the reason why second rank defense is valid. Okay, if let's say this rook is not being attacked, then the king can go inside lah. But now by checking on the 7th rank, on the second rank, is also sort of like expose this rook to the attack by the defender rook lah. And if you eat, then of course it's draw lah, it's easy draw, it's just draw lah. And if let's say you are check, and then you just go up like that, and then check, and then just go down, just so like that. That's second rank. Let's say now you want to play like this, the black play goes to like try to play something else, right? And then just go to king e2. Okay, just sort of like play again and again lah, just second rank. And then king d1, and then rook s1, naik atas. Okay, whatever like that lah. And then do like this, king f3. Now you can see if given the chance, the king, the defender, you go to the center lah. Once you go to the center, it's difficult to construct any mating attack lah. And then you check, and then you go here, and then you sort of like try to what you call, lagakan dia, and then go to the center and so on lah. So basically that is basically the second rank defense lah. When you sort of like, you cannot adopt this Cochrane defense. Okay, so that's basically rook versus rook bishop. This is one of the endgame that occur most often in the practice. Okay, let's see how this what we call this happen in real life. Okay, so let's see some of the some video. Let me make this what we call, let me open some let me open with, okay, let me see, let us see some video. Wait, I need to open this thing. Okay, let me put here. Okay, let me put here. Okay, at least you can see lah. Okay, hopefully you can see something here. So let me play this video. Macam nak play ni? Okay, sini. Okay, let me play this video. So this is basically the games. What we call what you see just now is basically let me put here lah. The game between Carlsen and Svidler. So that's basically in the what we call, in the Bliss World Championship. Okay, Bliss Championship. So let's see the game itself. I mean, I don't want to see the beginning. Let me make it bigger lah, senang. Okay, make it bigger. Okay, so this is the game from the World Championship Bliss in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. So see the game. How this, I want to show you how this rook versus rook bishop is common in practice, and see how this thing happen. So let's see. Okay. So this still in the middle game. So we don't want to deal with this. Let's go straight to the here. Okay. So I want, okay. So from here onward, try to see how this position that is common. This is like what you call in practice, is converted into rook versus rook bishop. Rook versus rook bishop. How it become. So Carlsen here, Carlsen world champion, is white, and this is Svidler, is Russian, is strong player from Russia, and you see how they play. Okay, so you can see this thing. You can see here, we're here. Okay, you can see the bishop is used to shelter the what we call the king, the what we call the king from the check. Okay, so now you are reaching this what we call the position that we learned just now. Okay, so you can try to look how Carlsen create this what we call the what we call the winning position. This position by theory is draw. In fact, this by theory is draw, but then as I said before, in practice it's harder to defend by with black. Okay, so you can see where the Svidler, this Peter Svidler here make a mistake. So but you see yourself lah. Okay, can you recognize this this position? This is Cochrane Defence, right? By right, this is draw. This is draw. But then, when you play in practice, just continue to play because it's much easier for black to defender to make a mistake. Okay, so you can see where the Svidler make a mistake. Okay, this still draw. Okay, okay, you see it goes to other way around. Okay, still draw. Okay, this still draw actually. So even here you can see in the real setting, in the face-to-face over the board games, it's not like you have time to, I mean, normally Endgame, this is Bliss Championship, but even in the Sukip later on, Endgame happened at the final phase, so you are very tired and also the time is ticking down. So you can see, but by looking this, you can see the I mean, you can feel by yourself, I mean, how you can keep your composure. Let's say you are defender, you are playing with the black here, how you can keep the composure to draw this endgame. It's not easy, even though you know this draw, you study this thing, you need to practice a lot. I mean, you need to keep practicing, so make it as a second nature, then you can handle it in the game lah. But if not, then you are doing this time travel, you are sort of feeling like nervous and you make a mistake, you tend to make a mistake. This Peter Svidler is like a super grandmaster, but still he cannot do this thing to show you that the winning chance if you have a rook bishop versus rook is higher. Okay, so try to keep play. Okay, so let's see. Okay, this mistake lah. Okay, see, it's more or less the same that what we learned previously. Okay. Okay, this is a winning lah because checkmate. Okay, so okay, wait, okay, I want to show you some here. Wait, okay, here. Mana yang belakang? Here. Okay, you can see when you play in the over the board, there are a lot of people will be sort of like korumun you. I mean, you a lot of that. So the pressure is there. So to keep your cool is pretty difficult. So that's why if you study a lot and so on, I mean, even though you know this thing is draw, it's not easy to convert it in the real tournament game with the pressure, the clock and everything, everyone facing looking at you. Okay, so we're done with that. So let's see, let me change this thing. Okay, let's see, let's study the thing itself. So let me close this thing first. Okay, let me close this thing first. Okay, this is basically the game, the one that we see lah, the Carlsen and Svidler. So but I don't want to go for this middle game and so on. So this is basically the game that we see just now. Okay, the game that we see just now. Okay, Carlsen is white, Svidler. So this Carlsen Svidler. This Carlsen Svidler Bliss World Championship 2010. So as you can see here, the game. So let me move. So this is what we see just now. So you see where is the mistake. So this is what we play, blah blah blah. Okay, so now you get this position. So king e4. So look how Carlsen pushed the king to the side, because in order to win this thing, and not in order to win, this is draw, but in order to have the winning chance, you need to push this king so that this king can go to sort of like the dangerous part lah, dangerous part here. I mean to the corner lah, bring the king to the corner here, to the corner, or to the corner here, to the corner here. So that the first task for the white is to push the king forward lah. So rook a4, king a5, and then bishop d4, this thing, king d3. So you can see you use the bishop as the shelter, as the shelter. So that's why so this rook protecting the bishop, and then you use the bishop as a shelter, and then you check. So this is how you sort of like push the king. So this you just push lah, you just push, and then you just want, okay, so now you want to make what we call, you want to sort of like make this this thing lah, to push to the what we call to the side here, instead of go to push to the on the 8th rank. You push to the H file. Basically it's the same thing, is it just you rotate 90 degree lah. So this thing, so you go front, so this thing, okay. So this Cochrane Defence is same as what we learned before. What we learned before is this one. This is what we learned before. This is what we learned before, where the king here, what you see just now here is same thing, but it's rotated 90 degree. So that's the same thing, the same Cochrane Defence. Okay, so this is draw, but by right this is draw, right? We learned before this draw. This is Cochrane Defence, but as you can see, Carlsen, the white, keep playing, keep playing, king e5 here, here. Okay, so this is indeed still draw lah, still draw. King f5, this still draw. Rook a4, bishop f4. Okay, so now basically the idea is that you want to sort of like make a check here, and then if the king cannot go here lah, cannot go here, and then you can discover. So that's the idea of this move lah. And then rook e3, that's why this rook cover this position, so that it doesn't have check lah. And then bishop d6, just to play around. This is still draw, this still draw, because if you check, then it's still draw lah. And then you repeat again lah, you repeat again. You just maintain this thing. So this still draw lah, maintain this thing lah. But in the game what happened is that when white play this, black play the blunder, this rook a4. Okay, the reason why this is a blunder is because now you have check, and then the king cannot go here, cannot go to the h2, because you have this discovered, and then you win the rook. Okay, so the what you call, the only way is to go up. The thing is that you have this checkmate there lah. You have this what we call you can want to checkmate, and then the king go here because you want to sort of like interpose. But then the other way around, but then you go to this one, you go to what we call g8, in order to what we call to sort of like check here. And here you can see that the rook cannot interpose because this bishop is here. If let's say the bishop is not there, then the rook can come here and then interpose. So you can see how at the top level they even think where to put the bishop here. The reason why they put the bishop there, I mean, in the fast time control, the bliss, I mean, they can even think that. So yeah, we are a long way to go to that level lah. But at least by learning this Cochrane Defence and how to win when the defender fail to adopt the Cochrane Defence, allow you to sort of like to get the idea how to get going from this position lah, from this position. So that's basically what we call rook versus rook bishop lah. This one, rook versus rook bishop, rook versus rook bishop. Okay, so the verdict is that it's theoretically draw, but in a real game there are significant winning chance. Okay, so we done with this what we call rook versus rook bishop. So now let's go to this rook versus rook knight. Okay, this much easier. This much easier to draw than this bishop. Okay, much easier to draw against than this rook versus rook bishop lah. As you can see here, 81% draw, 20% this is game lah. As mentioned here, this endgame is theoretically draw lah, but there are times that if you're not careful, because knight is tricky, knight is tricky. So let's go to this thing. So let me open the thing. wait for it. Okay, so this thing. Okay, so the ending rook versus rook knight, rook here versus rook and knight, rook and knight, apa makan ni, rook and knight is theoretically draw lah, because there are only few winning position. They are still winning position, but there are very few, so the defender can defend easily. I mean, here the defender is white lah, because you have what we call less piece than the black. Okay, so this is the famous what we call famous game. This what we call the one that we see just now. We see now is basically Polgar, Kasparov in 1996, Dos Hermanes, whatever the thing. So that's the game, the fraction of game that you see just now is from Polgar Kasparov 1996. Before this game, the general idea, the general verdict is that this rook versus rook knight is very easy to draw, but because of this game, people start to open their eyes, that they realize that, oh, this not so easy. I mean, they are like quite tricky lah. I mean, this can be trickier. Okay, so here this white to move, okay, white to move. In the game they play king h5. Okay, but the easier way to what we call to draw is just check lah, check, and then nf4. This is the way how to draw. You check nf4. This one of the common technique for the attacker. In previous example with the bishop, we see the bishop protect the shelter the king, same like this. The minor piece, the minor piece, in this case the knight, protect the king from the shelter, the king from the check. It's a common technique in this type of endgame. Knight is used as a shelter, while the rook is doing this shelter the king, and the rook cut off the what called the king from coming out. So now basically the what you call the aim is this lah. This is basically the what you call, let me insert a null move. So the aim is basically to make this is checkmate. Okay, this is configuration that you need to know. The knight cover this part, this square, and the rook cover what we call the along the what we call along the this thing lah, along this thing and this thing lah. So this one of the configuration for check back in this position, in this what we call die, rook versus rook. Okay, so that's the immediate threat there. Okay, immediate threat there. Okay, so here this is the common drawing method. Okay, the bishop, the rook goes here because you cannot take, because now it's stalemate. Okay, now it's stalemate. Okay, because if you look here, the rook already cover this rank. The knight already cover this place. The rook is already cover this place. So we can see that the king is more or less in a stalemate position. So that's why this move is draw. You just go here, and then the rook must go away, and then if you check like that, and then you have what we call tapi makan dah. Okay, this one h4. Okay, h4 lah. Okay, you cannot eat. Okay, you cannot eat the rook because it's stalemate. Okay, so that's why this is a common method when you are defender. In this case, the defender is the one that have the rook only. One of the common method is to draw with knight is to look for the stalemate. So this one of the stalemate happen on the side lah. So you go to the g8, and then if you check, you just go up, and if let's say the rook doesn't check, then the king go to the center lah. When the king in the center, is difficult to win lah. If you check, and then you just go here, don't worry, because you cannot take here, because if you take, then it's stalemate. So that's one of the easiest way to what we call to draw lah, to draw just check, and then just do like. But in the game, white play king h5, and then play this thing, and then king h6. Okay, so here why white not go to the what I call to the center is because they cannot. If you go to the center, because of the unfortunate position of the rook, then the knight can do this fork lah. can do the fork here. So the king cannot go here because you have the knight fork here. Okay, so the king anyway need to go to the what we call to stay on the corner anyway. So in playing against knight, you need to be always aware with the fork, with this fork. Okay, king s6, and then n5 check, and king s7, king f4, rook b8. Okay, this still draw, whatever here is still draw, just to show you the method lah. Rook g7, and then king h8. Okay, so now you can see that black seems like making a lot of progress. He tried to push the king to the corner. Normally when the king in the corner is much more easier to deliver the checkmate, but here still draw lah. It's still draw position, but you must take care. The care must be taken here lah. Okay, so here Kasparov play rook d7. Okay, rook d7. This is one of the good square lah, good square. The reason why this is a good square, because the idea for this endgame, one of the idea is that you want to put the knight here on this thing. When you have the knight here, then this knight cover this thing. In fact, if the king is still here, then this thing is checkmate. If the knight is on this yellow square. Okay, so the knight is basically want to go here because they are sort of like easier to make a mating trade and so on. Okay, so that's the one of the idea, and the king aim to go here. So that is basically the idea for this lah, for how to deliver the what we call the mating net. Okay, but still this position is draw because of white can sort of like can prevent that lah. But let's see what play. Okay, white play this thing. Okay, to show you an example, this still draw, but to show you an example how close this position to the losing. If let's say white play this thing, instead of playing like this, let's say white play like this. Okay, here is allow king to enter. Of course, you might say this also allow king to enter, but the problem now is that the rook can sort of like prevent the king from what we call from coming in to this thing. Remember, in order to make whether in the corner or in the edge, you need the help from the king. You cannot just in the Pawnless Endgame, you cannot just using the rook or the knight or rook and knight only. Okay, you need the help from the king. So that's why this thing in the game, this is what happened in the game lah, in the Kasparov Polgar game. The rook go to e8, and then this, if the king go up, then you cannot enter lah. But let's say if white make a mistake, white go to the f8. Here the problem now, the rook cannot go here because just capture lah, right? Just capture. So this is a blunder lah. If you go here, it's a blunder. So let's see how black can win from this position. So let's say go on the side in order to check here. So just go to king g6. Okay, what we call king g6, and then let's say you check here. You have this stick. Okay, you can sort of like what we call stop block. Okay, that's why, as I said before, this position of the rook is nice. Okay, it's nice. It's help to protect protect the knight lah from and the knight block and now is threatening the checkmate here. So that's why I said when the defender is forced to the corner, it's much easier to deliver the checkmate. Okay, so and then the rook must go back because not checkmate, and then now you have check, and then you have this thing, you check, and then you have go there, and then you have check again, and then you cannot go here lah, you need to go here, but then you have this knight go up, and then if you check, you still what we call, you can block and also check there. Okay, so if you go here, the aim for the what we call the knight go to this square that is like this lah. So if the knight go here, and then you can just checkmate here lah. So because of that, like it or not, the white need to sort of like capture that, and then you have this thing, and because you already in the corner, it's much easier, you can just checkmate straight away. Okay, so that's the thing. So this is why this thing is losing. Every move in endgame, in opening or in the middle game, if you make a mistake, let's say once or twice mistake in the opening or in the middle game, that's normally that's is not really fatal. But if you make one wrong move in the end game, then the result the result can be fatal lah, like this. Just changing from here to here can make a big difference between losing and drawing. So this is losing because you go here, and then you cannot prevent the king from coming to the what we call to the apa kata, to the 6th rank. Let's say you go here, okay, let's say go here and then go here, and then let's say you check there. Let's say you check, because we learned before what happened when you check on the 6th rank. You just if you check here, you just block with the knight. But now let's see how you want to win with this. When you check from this side, so you just go here. Okay, you just go here. Just go here, and then you still aiming to checkmate here. Still aiming to checkmate here. So rook G1, and then you have rook D8. Check, and then rook D8, and then you have rook D2, okay, and then rook G2, okay. So this is best. The what we call the white try to play the stalemate trick. So one thing for the defender, if let's say you are in the corner, try to find any stalemate trick. Okay. Of course, here the black doesn't need to take. It's not obligatory to take. If you take, then it's draw lah. This is stalemate. So black just go back and then just go somewhere else lah. Because here you cannot do here because the knight take care of the thing. Okay. So let's say rook G1. Okay. So now think how you can win. It's like the concept of what we learned in the Cochrane Defence, when the what we call the rook go here and there. This thing in the Cochrane Defence just now we learned where here. Okay, so here the rook move here. So you need to come up with plan, right, in the what we learned before. Similarly, now in this position, the what we call the rook can stay here for indefinite time. So black need to find a way to win. Find a plan to win, because if black go here, then you just go here, black go here, just go here back. So you need to find a plan in order to win this. You cannot just calculate only. Calculation is good if you have like if your opponent cannot do anything, but here your opponent can just play a tempo here and there. Not a tempo, I mean just oscillate here and there, and then you, in this case, you need to find the what we call the plan to penetrate. Okay, so try to think how black will sort of like break this sort of like oscillation of this rook. Okay, so it's not easy. It's easy when you see the answer. Okay, it's easy when you see the answer, but now it's not really easy if you don't know. If you don't see the answer, it's pretty difficult. Not difficult, I mean, it's even though it's only like 1 2 3 4 5 pieces only, but still you need to think, and by thinking, that's actually the training. I mean, learning, watching the video or hearing me talking here, give that it's not really a training. It's just like giving you the idea only. The real training is like this. You set this position. You know this position is winning for black, but for the time being, you see the white can sort of like just oscillate here and there, and sort of like black is sort of like what to do now. Okay, imagine this is a real game. So how you can what we call to create a plan to win this black to move and win, but how Normally when you see a tactic move, a tactic of a puzzle, right? When you do puzzle in league chess, whatever, you do puzzle, white to move and win, black to move and win. It's easy for you to do that because the puzzle is more like a force variation. I mean, it's more like you are doing a force variation. You sacrifice here, sacrifice this. But here is different puzzle. This is puzzle also, but the nature of this puzzle is different. This puzzle require you to come up with the plan rather than with the move. Yeah, you will move, but it's more important for you to find the plan how to win this rather than they are immediate checkmate or whatever. They are not immediate checkmate yet, but in order to create checkmate, you need to sort of like make a move. So the key is to play rook f this. So the answer is this. Okay, there are reasons for that. The idea for this, the king is a corner, so the knight can go here and check here, but still not checkmate, right? Because the king, if you check here, the king can go what we call can go here and even can escape. So the plan is that you want to move the knight to this position, this what we call this G6, but you don't want the king to escape, because if you check here, the king can escape here, can escape here, can escape there. So that's why you move the rook there in order to prevent the escape square. So and then is you maintain this thing, and then you try to do what you want to do, and then rook h4. Okay, you go here, because if not, then you just check and then mate lah. Because not only, because if let's say you go here, not only this is check, it's also mate, because this knight not only check here but also cover this square, and this rook is cover this escape square. So that's the idea lah. So let's say, so now because of that, white try to check, okay, but you can have this, you can check, and then you can f7. So this rook also not only want to prevent the king from the getting out, it's also prevent the check from the opponent rook. So they are multi-purpose move. So this is the key move lah. You go there, and then so this basically to teach you how to construct the plan when you feel like, oh, how to do this, how to do that. You need to have an aim first. For example, aim here is to check, to make a check with the knight here, but you want to sort of prevent the king from coming out lah. So that's why the what we call the rook goes to here, and then let's say this, and then you check, and then go here, check, go here, and then you check, and then you still have this thing, okay, and then now you prevent that, and then you have check, and that is checkmate lah. That is checkmate. Okay, so that is the difference between this and this. Okay, the difference between this and this. Okay, in the game, Polgar play this. In the what we call, in what variation that I show you, you play this. So when you play this, then you cannot the white cannot have access on that lah. So let's see in the game. The game Polgar play this. So this draw, and then you go king g5, and then because of that, rook e6. Then the what we call the king cannot join the attack lah. Cannot join the attack. So the knight move. So even though this position is draw, but you as a attacker here, meaning that you have extra piece, you keep playing, because the mistake can happen. You playing not against the computer, you playing against the human. So you just Kasparov just play, and then rook e1. Okay, rook e1. In fact, this is easier lah for me. This is easier lah. If this also draw, it's easier to prevent the king from what we call from coming in lah. So that's easier lah. But let's in the game Polgar play rook e1, and then king f6, and then still draw. This still draw, and then this is this still draw lah. This still draw. This still draw. But in the game, okay, there are a lot more move than this. But in the game, white lost because some mistake later on lah. So you can see this position, the position that in front of you is still draw, but in the game, I think like 10 move later, the white is lost, not because the position here is lost, it's because the mistake during, I mean in move, I don't remember, but few move after this lah, we don't go there lah, just to give you the idea how to how tricky is this thing. You need to take care about the rule, the check, the knight fork, and so on lah. So that's basically the idea. So one of the idea when you play with this is that you use your minor piece to shelter, and then as a defender, you, if let's say your king is sort of like restricted to the side, you can sort of like play this thing, going for the stalemate, thing. Okay, let's see some video first. This also video, let me put this first, open with this thing. Okay, so I want to show you, wait, let me close this a little bit, let me make it clear. Okay, so this is between Shimanov and Karjakin. I want to show you, the reason why I show you this video is because to say that this happen in practice. It's not like just theoretical thing only, it's happened in practice. So this is Shimanov Karjakin, World Bliss 2019. Yeah, the one that I showed you before is Carlsen and Svidler, World Bliss also 2010, I think. So this is 2019, it's a recent, still recent. So let me make it bigger lah. I think let me make it bigger, much easier lah, for you to see, because I want you to see also the clock, the clock. Okay, here you can see the Karjakin have 6 seconds. This 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 5 seconds. This 5, this 6 seconds. This normally the World Bliss is the time control is 3-2, meaning that you have 3 minutes and 2 second increment. So then after you press the clock, then you have increase in time lah, 2 seconds. So just to show you that this happen in practice, okay. And even though this endgame is draw theoretically, but you can see it's still tricky. So you see how they play. The Karjakin is top 10 player. This Shimanov is also a strong grandmaster lah. So in this case you can see Karjakin is black. So you have Karjakin have a king and also the rook, while the Shimanov have this extra piece, which is the knight. So we are in the territory of rook, knight versus rook lah, the one that we learned just now. So see what happened. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you here. Some of you might feel that the color, this what we call this, when you play in a wooden board, the color is more or less the same. It's like the dark wood here, and this white is more or less the same. Some people doesn't like this, but you need to be familiar with this, because in Sukip later on, if you are playing in the top board, normally when you are playing Sukip or Masum, if you are playing in the top board, usually they use this DGT board, okay, because normally they want to project your game to the slide and so on. So you need to be familiar also, even though some of you might don't like to play with this what we call this color, because the color is more or less not so contrast. But when you play Sukip, if you happen to play in the top board, it's more likely that you will play on this DGT board. We call it DGT board, this wooden board. Okay, just to say that lah. Okay, so you can see the game there. Let me open the game itself. Okay, So this what the game the Shimanov Karjakin. This is Shimanov. I think this just Shimanov Karjakin 2019 World Championship Bliss. Okay, so let me open this thing. Okay, so this is in the game. This is the game I put in this thing. So in the game, Karjakin, which is black, play this thing, play rook b7, which is understandable because normally when you have king facing each other, and if you have check there, then the king will be forced to the edge. In this case, it will force to the edge. So it's understandably that the Karjakin play rook b7. Okay, there are nothing wrong with this. It's still draw, but let's see if you play the pinning move like this, still also can draw. Because even if you move to, if you force the king to the what we call to the center, to the what we call to this king to the edge, then you sort of like you want to what we call you just go here, even though you just check like that lah. Okay, because here in this case you keep pinning, you keep pinning the knight. So this knight, you are pin the knight. So even though now your king is sort of like forced to the side, but still the knight is still pinned. It's like a Cochrane, more or less like a Cochrane, but it's not a Cochrane defense. So the rook move and the king what we call go near, but then the rook check, and then you can just draw lah here. Okay, to show you how tricky is this, is that when you check here, this is the only move to draw lah. If you move to king a2, king a3, then what we call, you have this king c2. Okay, the reason why you go to king c2 here, the reason why this is draw, I put here, this is draw, is because the king is attack the rook. The rook must go somewhere else. When the rook goes somewhere else, the knight is shaky because the rook here is attacking the knight. So if let's say if you go to king a3, the rook is not attacked, so the knight is okay. So the king can go to the other way around, and then here you are trying to give the shelter there. So here the rook cannot capture the knight because the rook here is sort of like protecting the knight. So you c8, you c3, and then you mate, and then mate here cannot be what we call, cannot be prevented lah. Okay, cannot be prevented because the trait is this. Okay, you might say here the position is more or less like stalemate, right? Why not I play this? Is it not draw? The answer is not. This is not draw. We learned before this is more or less draw, but this is not draw because you have check. Okay, you are not obliged to eat this. If you eat this, of course blunder lah, it's draw. Okay, but here you have check. You have check here. This is different than the one that we learned before. This one. Okay, this one. This is different because here you can do what we call, you can do like this because there are no what we call they are not really a check lah. I mean, this check is just move lah, just move somewhere lah, just move, and then it just repeat position lah. This repeat position lah. So there is not like this is not ni lah. So this is draw because there are no check here, because the what we call, if you check here, then the rook is sort of like what we call, sort of like block. So that's the difference here. So you can see here, this is not draw because you have this NB1 check. Okay, similarly, if let's say you are going here, if you go, instead of going a4, you go, we see this thing, Now if let's say you go to A2, it's still the same idea. You use this as a, what we call shelter, and that's why it's important to sort of like attack the what we call the rook there. So in the game Karjakin play this thing, and then rook c5, and then just play like that, and then check. Okay, so you need to force to the edge anyway. King d4, okay, king d4, and then rook b1, okay, and then king c4, okay. So here the position is still, I mean, this is still draw. This is still draw, but in the time trouble, you remember at this time, the Karjakin only have like 1 second like that, so he play the blunder this thing, and then you get the checkmate. So you get checkmate straight away because this thing is covered lah. This covered by the knight here. Okay. Okay, so I think that's it for what we call for today. Okay, so that is we learned today what we learned today. So we cover what we cover. We look at the what we call this statistic. We learn about the statistic, how this Pawnless Endgame have thing to do with the practical play. Okay, it's not all theoretical. There are practical game that I show. It's happened at the highest level, also at low level also can happen also. And in fact, you need to focus on the one that's that is what we call highlighted here. You can study this queen versus bishop, bishop, queen versus knight, knight, but you study just for sake of what we call understanding, how to understand the characteristic of the piece. But the real deal is that study queen versus rook, study rook versus bishop, rook versus knight, and rook versus rook bishop, rook versus rook knight, because this is happen commonly in the what we call in the practice lah. I mean, of course, it's not as often as rook endgame, rook pound, but then at least for the Pawnless Endgame part, this is the most common lah, rook versus rook bishop, and also the most common endgame that is misplayed by the defender. By right, rook versus rook bishop is what we call is draw, but because it's very hard to, not very hard, I mean that if you don't know what to do, then as a defender it's very difficult to find the accurate defense lah. Similarly with the rook versus rook knight, this is much easier to draw, but you just need to know how to avoid the tricky knight and so on. So yeah, so that's basically today. So today we conclude the part of Pawnless Endgame. So I think with that we end this session.